Is dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Thursday at a busy night in Major League Soccer last night. We will recap that for you. Niko Moreno will join us at 10:30 to dig into Seattle's resurgence in MLS play. We'll talk about Austin and LAFC with Niko as well. I'm sure we're going to talk about it ahead of that. We're going to talk about the Europa League final from yesterday as well. Eintracht Frankfurt wins in penalties, all kinds of rumor and innuendo and other stuff. We had another pitch invasion in England because they just can't help themselves. We do have an arrest in the headbutting incident from earlier and looks like 6 months behind bars for the individual, which is not enough. Would like to see more because that was horrendous. And plenty of other things to get into today. We will do our best to entertain and possibly inform, although we make no guarantees. We'll also do our best to see if Jarrett can actually hear people and speak.
Yes, he can.
It would have been nice if you had done that like 5 minutes ago when we were trying to get ready for the show. But anyway.
You know what? When it happens, it happens.
It's all in the pacing, right, Jarrett?
No, it's not in the pacing. It's called doing a show.
It's called, a total failure.
No, yeah, that's the thing. And you guys both know a lot about your technical failures. Good grief.
Oh, yeah. I'm the league leader in that, no question.
Yeah, it's not something you want to put your hand up about. I will put my hand up, and I will say that now, finally, after last night, there were questions along the way, and, man, they'll tell you about people asking questions about him. They've been very receipt-driven down in Texas, but I would, if I was in a diner and I was in a 90s movie and I was Vince Vaughn, I would be standing on the table saying, Austin, you're all grown up, you're all grown up, and you're all grown up. Because they made their statement that they are among the top now. They go to Bank of California Stadium. They beat LAFC 2-1. Of course, we have complaints about penalties and not penalties. And I think they got both of the calls right. The Vela one that he gets it, not a ton of contact, but there is contact. He pushes the ball away from goal, and Max Bredos on the call nailed it. You know, it's smart. It's what you do. It's you know, is he going to goal there? No, he's not. He's going towards the corner flag, but he knows what he's doing to draw some contact. He leaves that right leg hanging around to make sure that Stuver makes contact with it. He does. And look, that's going to be given a penalty most of the time. There is not the mentality that the Premier League created this year about not rewarding players who are looking for penalties. That is not an IFAB thing. That was a Premier League thing. MLS hasn't said anything about that, although Jair Marufo kind of said that about Brooks Lennon. This is a penalty in most circles, so they get it. The second one, not a penalty. And Armando Villarreal went to take a look at it. He was the center referee. It's sent down for him to look at. And he sees what I feel like I saw in it. Keller steps up, gets the ball on the first step, and then Palacios kind of spins into Keller and creates contact where the ball's gone. It's not a penalty. I think they got it right. I know it's LAFC, so, buddy, I'm sure there's going to be lots of comments about that were not made about the Atlanta-Miami one. Yeah, maybe I'm a little salty today like Austin gets. So just, hey, deal with it. Villarreal has been selected for the referee pool for video assistant referees for the World Cup. Ismail Elfath is selected for the referee pool for that. Couple of ARs as well. Drew Fisher, Canadian, is in the VAR pool as well. Villarreal's a good referee, and he knows how to use VAR. Obviously, FIFA thinks he knows how to use it better than anybody. Now, he's in the middle this time around, but he knows the other side of it. I think he made the right call. I think Austin showed their quality. And that was one of many storylines yesterday in MLS. Don't worry, Jarrett. We'll get into Rangers falling in penalties because I'm sure you have thoughts. But first, what were your thoughts about MLS last night?
As far as MLS last night, to your point.
There it goes.
Yeah, to your point.
Your thoughts about MLS last night, Jarrett. Go.
Yeah, to your point. Austin made a statement. San Jose is just still very perplexing, and so is Portland in that respect. Red Bulls are an absolutely drunken mess at home. That game was completely like the liver no longer exists level of drunkenness with Chicago and New York. Um, and the team that's probably in the weirdest spot is Philadelphia because they're in first place in the East, but they don't look the part at all.
Stupid. There was a yellow and your thoughts, John?
In general, I mean, I will sit there and I'll put my hand up about Austin too. I mean, we had said that, Austin is beating the teams that they're supposed to beat up on. And this is one of those matches where you sit there and you're like, okay, this is one of those put up or shut ups. And Austin absolutely put up in this one. And I will, stand on, Brett, you get to see the value of a guy like Brad Stuver. I'm not, saying anything negative about somebody like Andrew Tarbell, who, when Stuver was injured, he came in and Tarbell served admirably for those couple of matches. And then Stuver comes in on a night like this where you're going to need your best. And Stuver came up big. There was one double save that Brad Stuver made. And then there was a split kick save that he made as well. And he came up big. And yes, obviously he was responsible for the first penalty on Carlos Vela. And Vela was very smart in that moment. So, Austin, hey, I'm going to, put my hand up in the air and go, yep, Verde, you are right on. And, Austin gets a big win, obviously then Sporting Kansas City in Colorado, the chaos that happened there at 90 plus, where you had game finished 9-9 to add to the craziness from yesterday. And you look at Philadelphia and Inter Miami, and Jarrett was right on with that one too. So yeah, there was a fair amount of chaos last night. And I guess with Colorado and Sporting, do we still call that MLS After Dark with that ending, Jason?
Was it after dark?
That was what I was saying. Normally we sit there and think of the whole match being after dark and that being MLS After Dark consideration. But yes, the four Reds happened after sundown. So,
John, first rule of MLS After Dark is you don't put rules on MLS After Dark. That's the number one rule.
It can be tricky though, because we think of MLS After Dark, I think a lot of times as like it needs to start after 10 p.m. for it to reach peak. But this thing like went off the damn rails in like the 85th minute.
Yeah, there were, in my opinion, there were other things that were bigger in this week of craziness in MLS, like the wonderful match between Philadelphia and Miami. That was great. Scoreless draw. Of course, God. Philadelphia were clearly the better side, according to most. They did outshoot Miami. 20-9, 8 shots on target to Miami's 2. Drake Callender doing very well for Miami these days. Miami was pleased with their point. Phil Neville was pleased with it, thought that his team played well. Philadelphia has not won in quite a while. Yes, that was the game of the night. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Sorry, I misspoke. It was absolutely the game of the night. I stand corrected.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was great.
Oof.
Great display of the football.
I'm just going to go watch. I'm just going to go watch Red Bulls again instead, because at least Red Bulls in Chicago, at least they brought the good drugs to the party.
Yeah.
They did. We haven't talked about DC and New York City. DC did not look all that good in this. They did hit the post off deflections twice early. But after that, it was New York City. It's Alexander Callens. It was set piece dominance for the Pigeons. And then it was Tati Castellanos with a Paninka just to rub it in.
Yeah. And Taxi Funtas does not start. And, maybe
you're playing midweek. I mean,
I know
guys can only play so many minutes.
I know. But, I would have thought maybe you go with your hot hand in a time like that to try to get a result against.
But you don't know his workload, John. And this is something that comes up all the time with, when guys get rotated. It's easy from the outside when they don't win. It's like, oh, see, Chad Ashton, what are you doing? Come on, man. He might have needed a break. He might have asked for a break. Like, we don't know that. So I'm going to be a little reluctant to go in on that, because he's played a full season. He then comes across the Atlantic and has jumped straight in with DC United. He comes off the bench. He can't get anything done here in the second half. 2-0 for New York City. Mentioned Chicago and Red Bulls and a fever dream of a 3-3. Minnesota and the Galaxy finished with a fever dream at the end. Sasha Kljestan with a goal in the 83rd from the spot. Robin Lod equalizes just a couple of minutes later. He is their leading scorer, not anybody who plays up top. They had 2 designated players who are forwards on the team who Robin Lod plays ahead of, which makes tons of sense. I mean, it's a game where I don't think anybody's exceptionally happy coming out of it. Minnesota can't be at home, and the Galaxy should have gotten 3 here. So it's one of those that you both just kind of stumble to the bus to get back to your domiciles. Seattle with a 1-0 win on the road in Houston. Not good for the Dynamo. Finished 10v10, but didn't really have an impact on this. Houston has to win these games at home. Seattle is starting to get things right after CCL. Nashville and Montreal, another one we haven't talked about yet. Hani Mukhtar, second half goal. That's the difference here. Alex Muil with a golazo early, a bomb with his left foot. Montreal came back into it, but couldn't find the goal to win it. The goal that they pulled one back with was a crazy car crash of a situation coming off of Willis, comes off of Kamara. Kai Kamara might have either sprained his wrist or broken his wrist, or I don't know. He slammed into Willis, but the ball slams off of him into the back of the net somehow. But Nashville comes into the match this weekend after having a lot of work to do against Montreal on Wednesday. Nashville 23 unbeaten at home. 23 matches unbeaten at home. You're going back to like October of 2020 for their last loss in the Music City. Vancouver and Dallas. Vancouver gets the win. Vancouver's 3 in a row without a loss now. 2 wins in that. Lucas Cavallini gets the game winner's penalty in second half stoppage time, but he got a yellow card in second half stoppage time, and he will miss their next game in Charlotte. That's a long trip for Vancouver on short rest as well. Oh boy. Charlotte's got to be licking their chops after not playing in the midweek and then get Vancouver coming across the country. Dallas maybe not groans up after not being able to go to Vancouver and get the win. San Jose, Portland, Jarrett talked about it. 3-2 for San Jose. They keep finding goals. Jamiro Montero ends up getting a goal in either half. Alex Covello should probably just be given the opportunity to run this team the rest of the year, because he has done very well across all competitions. 1 loss in 7. That's impressive for an interim manager in Alex Covello right now. Maybe it's because it's Almeida gone. Maybe Covello's just bringing some common sense to the mix. I don't know. But San Jose getting the job done, and Portland on the road, not good. Just they haven't been good for a while. They get 2 goals, but they give up 3. Just not good. Portland is just frankly not that great this year. Jarrett, before we come back to MLS, because I know we've got some limited time with you this morning, Europa League final was yesterday. Rangers made a real game of it. I'm not sure how big of an underdog they were coming into it. I feel like they were the underdog. I feel like they saw themselves as the underdog, but they can't get it done. It goes to penalties. Eintracht Frankfurt gets it done. And Aaron Ramsey sighting did not go well for Rangers, and his penalty is not a good one, and it is saved. And Eintracht Frankfurt goes through to win the Europa League and go into next year's Champions League. And Rangers is very sad today. How are you feeling, Jarrett?
Very interested to see how this continues to go for them, and how quickly do they put it behind themselves, because here's the thing. They have a game Saturday. It's a cup final against Hearts. So you can't really feel sorry for yourself. You kind of have to nut up here if you're Rangers, and kind of you can feel bad about it later, but you got to get it out of your head right now so that you can deal with what's coming up Saturday. Now, they are going to see the save that the Eintracht Frankfurt goalkeeper made in like the 118th minute. They're going to see that in the back of their mind when they sleep for the rest of their lives, because it's an amazing save coming across. But man,
Are
it
they going to see
just
the Ramsey penalty in the back of their head for the rest of their lives?
they probably should. Jesus, Ramsey,
Are they
man.
going
I
to see the
mean,
Ramsey acquisition in the back of their head for the rest of their lives?
they probably should. And the
What did
thing is,
he
like,
do?
well, the game was so weird because you get Rangers like doing what they usually do is they go long off the goal kick, um, and then you get a goal because the ball's kind of bounced around in the air. And a Frankfurt, ironically, a team that Steven Gerrard coached, had a defender benefited from a defender slipping. The Eintracht Frankfurt defender slips, and
We got to be getting
you
past
get
the
Joe
statute of
Aribo.
limitations on Stevie G at this point.
There is no statute of limitations on CBG at this point.
Dang.
But you get Joe Aribo, who's probably not in that situation if Alfredo Morelos is healthy, and you get Joe Aribo put in the back of the net, and then it just seems like Rangers kind of geared down a little bit of thought, okay, we got to see this out now. And Eintracht Frankfurt hit, just barely lifts a little chip shot over the bar, and then they get the goal because I don't know what the hell the Rangers defense was doing in that situation. You get on the wrong side of the attacker and gets put in the back of the net, and then Rangers gears it back up, which they've done before in Champions League this year. It was, or in a Europa League. It was very weird. It's almost like at times like they can turn it on and off, but they just don't need to turn it off when they turn it off.
Yeah. I mean, Eintracht Frankfurt I thought was the better team. Rafael Santos Borré, formerly of River Plate, Colombian national team, gets the equalizer for Frankfurt and then converts the penalty to win it for them. That ended up being a great acquisition. He had a huge year for them. Ramsey ends up being one of the most disappointing acquisitions from January, and I think he's basically going to be given a one-way ticket back to Turin, where he's still under contract at Juventus, by the way. Okay. We'll see what happens. Do you think they can pick themselves up off the ground and get something out of the final with Hearts in the Scottish Cup final?
I think they can. I think Gio is the kind of manager who can get them in that right mindset, and I think they'll be okay. And I think they win that cup final.
They should. I mean, they're by far the favorite.
Oh yeah, they're by far the favorite. I think he's a really good enough manager to get them in the right mindset to take care of that.
We will see. That game Saturday or Sunday, Jarrett?
I believe it's Saturday.
Okay. We will get into that. Lots of rumors and innuendo on Kylian Mbappe these days, on Robert Lewandowski. Fabrizio Romano just tweeting out a little while ago that Lewandowski has had 2 direct contacts with Xavi at Barcelona. Contract until June of 2025 has been discussed. It's up to the clubs. Lewandowski wants to go to Barcelona. They're not talking to any other club. Bayern and Barcelona have to do a deal now. And that's where things stand on Robert Lewandowski potentially going to Barcelona. Kylian Mbappe, I believe, has been either quoted or people around him are saying that it's almost done. There's almost going to be a deal. And you've got John's favorite presenter in the world from El Chiringuito, Josep Pedrerol, who is now very concerned because he feels like things are going badly for Real Madrid. And he's saying that he thinks it's going the wrong direction for them to get this done. I don't know. Everybody's still pointing at Real Madrid, so I have no idea. We'll see. Enzo Fernandez of River Plate, speaking of River players, he is being looked at by pretty much everybody. Manchester City, Manchester United, Real Madrid, all considering bringing him in. 20 million euro release clause, at least in that ballpark. Enzo he's 21, was loaned to Defensa, I think at 18, was a huge part of them winning Copa Sudamericana under Hernan Crespo. Goes back to River, has been a beast. He was called into the Argentine senior national team by Lionel Scaloni. 9 goals, 5 assists in 19 games this year as a central midfielder. He's going to be a star. And 20 million euro for a release clause? Duh, is the response to that. It should be anyway. And we'll see which one of these giants does it first. I think the questions are going to come down to, do they do a Moises Caicedo with him and have him sit around and wait for his time? Do they loan him out somewhere to have him play a little bit and then come into the first team? Or do they see him as a player who can walk right into a first team and do well? I think his progression, he doesn't need a whole lot more seasoning. I think he's ready to go. So we'll see if any of those clubs feel like he is, or if somebody else comes in and pays that release clause, because it's not a crazy one. I mean, I like Calvin Phillips a lot, but when Calvin Phillips of Leeds is being talked about as a £50 million player to go to Manchester City or to Manchester United, and you can get Enzo Fernandez, who's 21, younger, for €20 million. That should tell you a lot about where the scale is in England and all the pricing of it. It's out of whack for internal transfers in the Premier League. Players are highly, highly valued. Sometimes you can go out and you can get a Moises Caicedo for next to nothing. You can go get an Enzo Fernandez for not much. And are they going to give you the same impact as a Calvin Phillips, who's very, very good? They just might. They're definitely going to give you more impact for the dollars you spend. No way around it. Everton, Leeds, and Burnley are trying to avoid the drop and avoid a £55 million shortfall in their accounts as part of the drop. Yes, they'll get parachute payments, but it doesn't make up for everything. Burnley is probably the one that could handle that the best, John, I'm assuming, because they're a pretty frugal club in general. Leeds is pretty well capitalized, and it looks like they could bring more money into it. Everton seems like the one that, if you have that kind of a loss, that's going to be harder for them to deal with.
Yeah, and you also have the specter of one of your commercial partners, Alisher Usmanov, that's hanging over this. And, are Usmanov's finances going to be frozen to where he can't give the...
Have they not been yet?
They have. That's right. They have. And, if it sticks, I guess is what I was getting at. Can Usmanov have access to funds to where he can continue to be engaged to Everton to the level that he currently is? And if you've lost Usmanov and you get relegated, Everton could be in a serious hurt for more than just one season. And I know that we talked
if they don't bounce back. I think if they bounce back in 1 year, they'll be okay.
Yeah.
I think
so.
But are they going to be able to keep everybody? Like, that's the thing. If they get relegated, you got a bunch of players who are going to be like, nah, I ain't playing in the championship.
Charlison, Calvert-Lewin,
a bunch of guys are going to be like, get me out of here fast. Yeah. And then you're going to have to rebuild, and you're probably going to have to do some cut rate deals on those guys. And you're going to have to scramble, but you'll have a squad that should be good enough to go straight back up. It's if they don't in 1 year, with a loss, with the potential loss of money coming in, commercial partner, whatever we want to call it these days. Everton's the one who feels like they could afford to go down the least. I mean, Burnley is a club at that level. They're a club at the 16 to 26 kind of range in terms of England. Like, they're never going to be a perennial European contender. They're always going to be in this kind of a ballpark. So it happens. Leeds has been there. They're trying not to be, but if they have a hiccup here because they held on to players 1 year too long under Bielsa, which I think they did, it might not be the worst thing for them to reset a little bit. Everton, I don't think, can afford to go down. I just don't.
No, and remember with Burnley, you've got the owners who basically borrowed against the club to buy the club.
Right.
And so you've got that financing that is a part of this to think about as well. But yeah, there was, to your point about Burnley, I've always pictured them as that 16 to 26. You had that one golden year where they got into European competition because of the folks above them winning multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
And they almost got relegated because of that, because of the poor start that they had. So in order of worry, I would go Everton 1, Burnley 2, and Leeds 3 if there's a relegation.
Yeah, I don't know enough about all the details on Burnley's books. I'd maybe flip Burnley and Leeds. I'm not worried if Leeds goes down. I think they would come right back. I think they'd be able to retool a little bit. It might make them, and they need to. Burnley, if they have a huge issue with all that other stuff for going down, then they could be in a worse spot. But they're their spending isn't at a crazy level. I don't think they have a ton of players that would demand a move away. I think they'd be pretty well positioned to come right back. So we'll see.
At what Mark Pope and Ben Mee, those two guys would probably be
Maybe.
the ones that you'd have to jettison because folks would have an interest, but that'd be about it.
Yeah, maybe. Mark Cucurella of Brighton, left back. Manchester City considering a £30 million move for him. John McGinn of Villa is on Tottenham's list of targets for Antonio Conte. And Lisandro Martinez, Argentine center back, who has been in the Netherlands, is added to Manchester United's target list for Erik ten Hag. According to rumors, which is generally how this stuff has been played out, like anybody who has had any connection to the Netherlands or Ajax, yes, they are on Erik ten Hag's list. That's how this goes. I do want to get into a couple more things on the fallout in the EFL side of things. So you had a League Two playoff semifinal yesterday. Mansfield gets through over Northampton, and you had a pitch invader who ran into a Mansfield player, Jordan Bowery, during the match. Man made his way onto the pitch towards the end, kind of barged into him. Bowery didn't fall down or anything. Northampton players and stewards intervened, got him off. Flair was thrown onto the pitch at the same time. Nobody's been arrested as of yet. Neither club have commented on it. In the fallout of this, the EFL has said it will consider, quote, further measures, unquote, to tackle crowd misbehavior over the summer, including the potential use of capacity reductions or other similar mitigations. They're going to have to do more than consider this stuff because this is two massive games, and this incident's not the same one that we saw in the Nottingham Forest situation. But you can't allow this to just be like, oh, okay, whatever, because then it turns into somebody running on and headbutting a player. It's awful. The EFL's got to do a better job here. And it's not just England. It's not just England on this one. It's everybody who's got to do a better job. But they got to set the expectation because they're being looked at right now. And the person who, Robert Biggs, a 30-year-old, is the one who pleaded guilty to assault on Billy Sharp of Sheffield United. He did have a separate charge of illegally entering the playing surface dropped, which I don't know why. Why are we going out of our way for this guy who ran into somebody else's space and charged into them and headbutted them? No, don't take it easy on that person. Jailed for 6 months, banned from football for 10 years. No. Banned for life, and don't drop other cases against this person. No. Because let's play it out. What if this guy does what he does, charges into Billy Sharp, breaks bones in his face?
Yeah.
What if he charges into Billy Sharp and gives him a concussion that Sharp doesn't recover from and his career is over? Which, when you run into somebody full speed like this idiot, Robert Biggs is the said idiot, when you do that, these are the things that come into play. He could have ended Billy Sharp's career. He could have ended his livelihood. Because he didn't, doesn't mean he should get, 10 years is a really strong punishment. He's back at games at 40. Do we want this moron in the stands? No. No. It's assault. He could have ended the player's career. There's nothing that's okay about this. And the penalties have to be stricter. And the EFL has to stop considering things and actually do something. Because you've had multiple playoff games this week, and you've had 2 incidents of people running onto the field. You've had a flare thrown onto the field. It's insane. It's insane. And next time somebody does this, like what Robert Biggs, said moron of the week, month, year did, you're going to have a player who loses money because of what an idiot is allowed to do by running onto the pitch. You're going to have a player who loses a career. You're going to have that happen. And if you don't stop now, if you don't get something done to stop it, make an example out of this idiot. He did it. It's horrendous. 10-year ban for what that person did. That's insanity to me. That's absolute insanity to me, and I'm incredibly disappointed. That's all it is.
Think about the individuals that Robert Biggs could influence. I mean, I imagine
there's a lot of idiots.
Yeah. And then if he's got this 10-year ban at the age of 30, I assume that, Robert Biggs might want to, or he may already have a family. He might, either have kids or want kids or something like that, or influence his cousins and nephews and things like that. What kind of example does this set when you have someone like Robert Biggs, idiot of the day, week, month, year, and everybody in his sphere that he can touch, that they sit there and say, yeah, he did that. Yeah, it was funny. Ha, 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 ha. Look what he did. And he got away with it. The influence that he could have on younger people. Yeah, he did that. I thought that was cool. And all he got was a 10-year ban. No. You have to stop this now. You have to sit there and say that an idiot like Robert Biggs gets taken away from something that he allegedly, apparently loves with his sport of football and his fandom with the club that he loves. You have to make a statement here and keep idiots like this away from the game, because the point that you made, Jason, about headbutting a player, possibly taking away his livelihood in a situation like this. I mean, what, are you going to take Robert Biggs to court and try to sue him in a civil case, taking this to its logical step, if you can't do your job? And no, you cannot have this. You cannot do this. And for the EFL to sit there and say, yeah, we'll consider. No, you want to consider something? You consider banning this idiot for life, L-I-F-E, life, banned, period. Make a statement, say that this stuff does not happen. And if I'm a player in the EFL and I see something like this, why would I want to continue to play for this organization that doesn't want to stand up for its players in a moment like this? Stand up for your players, stand up for your day-to-day business, stand up for who you want to be to younger people, and set an example for this and say that, Robert Biggs, you're an idiot. You don't get to enjoy this anymore. You get to be outside the stadium. You get to watch it on TV. You get to pay an extra $97,000 to watch it on iDrive or whatever they do. No, you get to be made an example of for being an idiot like this. This is just, no, this doesn't happen.
Jarrett, and then you have the other side of this where you've got Ollie McBurney of Sheffield United, who has been accused of stamping on a Nottingham Forest fan during the pitch invasion. Footage came out yesterday of McBurney appearing to tangle with a fan on the pitch as he lay on the floor, and a Nottingham Forest fan is heard saying the Sheffield United player just stamped on him. It's unclear whether he actually connected with it. Sky Sports News is all over this story, including an eyewitness that say the Sheffield United player involved is McBurney. McBurney he responded to a tweet that says, wish that video was in full context. Looks more like he was trying to step over him with one bad leg. Could be wrong. McBurney replied with the 100 emoji. Sky Sports News has not gotten comment from McBurney's representatives. Really? We're gonna do this and try to make a player whose workspace was invaded by fans the bad guy in this? We're gonna do that side of things now?
There's a level of personal responsibility that comes with things from everybody involved with stuff. Because when you start dealing with pitch invaders, the thing that annoys me is, because when you start coming down with punishments for it, you get people who start talking about, you're overreacting. Because the first thing that John's talked about before, one of the things that enters my mind when you start dealing with pitch invaders, especially intense games where it's rivalries, is a Monica Seles situation where someone runs on the field and assaults someone with a weapon. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to hear anything about, you're overreacting. That wouldn't happen. No one's going to do that. That's just being foolish and you're just being dramatic. It's only dramatic until stuff happens. And that's why you punish people for doing it and tell them, hey, if you go on the field, that's pretty much it for you. I mean, it's absolutely insane as far as players go on the field. I mean, It's a weird thing because you see this a lot, and I feel like it is not talked about as much of when players go after fans that are on the field, like when it breaks down, when that line gets crossed, and that metaphorical fence between the player and the fan is completely gone. Then it becomes, no holds barred, and then you run into the situation that we've discussed about NBA before of the average human being does not want to tangle with a pro athlete. I don't care if that pro athlete is like an Enzo Martinez, plays in USL, who's a smaller guy. I don't care if it's a soccer player who is like a Miguel Almiron, who is a pretty slight guy. You don't want to tangle with them. You don't want to get in a situation where they feel like they might be threatened, and you don't want to be in a situation where if one of them is going to act in a less than professional manner as a human being, where they take a cheap shot at you, don't put yourself in that situation, because they're not going to come into the stands and fight you. But you go on the field and you open yourself up to someone making a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's weird. Like, I don't know how else to like phrase it, because I'm not trying to excuse any behavior from players. Like, if a guy who ran on the if fans are on the pitch and things are getting out of hand, and a guy's like on the ground and he's just like shelled up, turtled up, and just
Sure.
trying to like
Different
ride it out.
situation.
Yeah, if he's turtled up and trying to ride it out and get out of there, yeah, it's an absolute dick move to do anything to him. But you get on the field, you put yourself in a situation where professional athletes who are extremely not in the group of people you want to throw hands with in any sport, don't put yourself in a situation where they might throw hands with you.
No, you don't. We'll see. I'm really going to be irritated if they try to make McBurney into a bad guy here. You can't run onto the field, and you don't get an out. It's the same thing as I get really irritated. The incident with Aberdeen earlier this year, where a
That one
fan
still makes
shoves
my
the
blood
player.
boil.
Yeah,
That's also on the officials in Scotland, which the refs in Scotland suck. But
yeah.
I think he got a ban, but I don't know how long it was.
Yeah, but the player got punished, and that's the issue that I have with this. Is a lot of times players are held to an unfair standard when people run onto the field and could be potentially attacking them. Yeah, like handle it. You want to, if the authorities and the security can't keep people from running onto the field, maybe getting a punch to the nose will. And hey, you came into my space, buddy. Like, if that's what it takes, it's got to be handled better. And to even try to make it like, oh yeah, see, a player did this, and yeah, what he did, oh, that's bad, but player did this, that's horrible. No, it's the other way around. Like, let's stop this nonsense, guy, and England and all the news out of this. That guy, hopefully Nottingham Forest steps up with a larger ban for said moron who headbutted Billy Sharp, longer than whatever the authorities or EFL or whoever came up with the 10-year ban. It needs to be lifetime from Nottingham Forest. We'll see if they do it. We'll see what else happens. Other news this morning. Barcelona is going to play a couple of friendlies in the United States this summer. July 19th in Fort Lauderdale against Inter Miami, and July 30th in New Jersey against the New York Red Bulls. Xavi's Barcelona against the New York Red Bulls, Jarrett. That's going to be interesting.
Man, Xavi's not ready for that.
I mean,
like, Xavi's going to be standing there going, what the hell? Every time we get through the midfield, it's just a whistle, whistle, whistle.
Yeah, basically. Even in a friendly is what it'll be like. The other big news of the day is FIFA appointing 3 female referees for the World Cup for the first time in World Cup history. 3 women referees and 3 women assistant referees. So this is part of the list of potential referees. I don't think this is necessarily a locked-in appointment. Catherine Nesbitt from the United States is one of them, one of the assistant referees. Neuza Bach of Brazil, Karen Diaz Medina of Mexico. Those are the other assistant referees. Salima Mukansanga from Rwanda and Yoshimi Yamashita from Japan, along with Stephanie Frappart of France are the female referees. We've seen Frappart do some pretty high-level games on the men's side in France. I would imagine she gets a game in this World Cup. And, people have asked the question, and I do actually like if this is because of people putting pressure on FIFA, if it's something that FIFA decided to do. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. Probably we won't. But I do like that you're going to have female referees on the field working these games in FIFA uniforms to work these games in Qatar. I will be very curious to see what the reaction is to that from the locals. But yes, I am very much looking forward to this. And I don't care what gender the referee is. Are they among the best? Book them. And Frappart has shown that she's among the best. I do not know Mukansanga's work or Yamashita's work. Have not seen it. Catherine Nesbitt, we've seen Catherine Nesbitt work in the United States in various leagues. Never had an issue with any of her work. If they're among the best, they should be there, period. I mentioned it earlier that Armando Villarreal is there on the video assistant referee side, and Ismail Elfath is the U.S.-based referee who is among the group. Elfath has been getting a lot of FIFA games. I think he's maybe past Jair Marufo as the top guy from the U.S. according to FIFA. So we will see. Right now, it's 36 referees that have been selected, 69 assistants, and 24 video assistant referees. Those are the ones picked. I do find it funny that there are no English VAR officials selected for the tournament. How you feel about that, John?
I'm all for it.
Man, they don't get anybody in there.
If you can't do it, then you don't show up. You don't get tapped, sir.
Basically. The other thing on the World Cup side of things, human rights groups are urging FIFA to match the World Cup prize money for Qatar migrant workers. Amnesty International has kind of led this coalition of human rights organizations. $440 million is the World Cup prize money. They are calling on FIFA to give an equivalent payment to migrant workers. It was an open letter to Gianni Infantino, who was the president of FIFA, who awarded the 2022 World Cup to Qatar after lots of bribes, kind of allegedly. I don't even know if it's really allegedly anymore. Many, many controversies in how it was awarded, why it was awarded, why it shouldn't have been awarded there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we will see if FIFA has any response to that. Jarrett, you with us at all in hour number 2? You leaving us in 10 minutes?
Oh, trying to come back in hour number 2.
Well, we have Niko Moreno at 10:30, so that's why I was checking.
Oh, well, in that case, no. I'll probably just pop over to the Twitch pitch and listen to Niko talk about Seattle.
Oh, that's always dangerous. When you on the Twitch pitch, it's definitely a dangerous thing.
Hey, we do what we do.
Yeah. One other bit of news that I think is interesting, and I wish I had Nick Alifi's comment on this. Milan, we talked about the soccer over there. They are at Sassuolo in the decider. All they need is a draw. A draw, they win the Serie A title for the first time in a long time. The stadium at Sassuolo seats 24,000. Tuttosport is reporting that out of the 24,000, 18,000 will be Milan fans.
God, that's just you're gonna give Nick like a crippling level of anxiety.
Agita beyond belief.
He's already got that. There's nothing I can do that's gonna change that.
Yeah, it's bad, man. It's bad. I thought you were gonna tell me Milan was in the chase for James, because that's the only other thing that would make me smile.
No, those days are done. Those days are done, I would believe. Milan is reportedly done deal with Divock Origi, headed there on a free for next season. That one is done. Not James, Origi, Jared.
Fine.
Yeah, sorry. We'll get a couple questions from the Twitch pitch here in just a second as well. One more from me on the news front. Malik Tillman, 19-year-old Bayern midfielder who has played with the German youth national teams, has switched allegiance to the United States, according to Kicker. Quote from the German U21 coach, Antonio Di Salvo. We regret Malik's decision. It surprised us a lot. We promoted him as a younger player in the U21, showed him a lot of confidence, and gave him playing time. In addition, we were in intensive exchange regarding his prospects in the senior national team. So Tillman played for the U.S. U15 national team has represented Germany at all youth levels since then, played for the U21s in October of 2021. 19 years old right now, and Germany is a little salty that he is going to play for the United States in the future. Sorry.
Hey, you're looking out for your own prospects, and if you see a better path in a different country that you can claim for, go for it.
What do we have on the Twitch pitch, John?
Stuff from our MLS discussion early on. A lot of folks, JW was the first one to mention it. Disco is absolutely going to get involved with that Colorado ending, right?
Yeah. Why don't you explain all that for everybody?
All right. So I'm trying to picture it in my brain. So Austin Trusty gets the first red of 4 at 90+2.
What does he do?
It was a nasty hip check tackle. So no, it was worthy of the card. So that one I'm putting to the side. But after that, it was at 90+6 where Daniel Shallowy is trying to keep Mosqueda from quick starting as Colorado's trying to chase an equalizer. And so basically
quick starting.
Yeah,
I like the terminology.
Taking a free kick quickly.
We can figure it out. Yes.
So Mosqueda is trying to restart quickly, and Shallowy basically comes up to him and just wipes him out. I mean, literally takes his right leg and just wipes Mosqueda out. And then that starts a lot of argy-bargy and folks coming together. And then it was Lucas Estevez who comes from behind and basically just pushes the ever-loving daylights out of Shallowy. Oh, it's crazy.
Are you watching this back, or are you trying to do it from memory?
I'm trying to do it from memory.
All right, let me try to actually play-by-play this thing because MLS has done like a 1-minute clip of this. This is after the Trusty incident, and this is at 95:06 on the clock.
Yeah, so go for it.
So pass played out to the left. Russell foul from behind. Shallowy tries to prevent the kick from being taken quickly. Mosqueda makes a meal of it. Estevez comes in and shoves Shallowy. Russell wants to fight everybody. Yep. They're trying to get Lucas Estevez off the field. I think Courtney Ford is trying to walk him out of there so he doesn't get jumped. They show the replay now. Mosqueda does get kicked. Shallowy does something stupid, but Mosqueda makes a lot of it. Estevez pushes Shallowy in the back.
Mm-hmm.
The Shallowy part is stupid. He should get red carded. Estevez should get red carded easily for that.
Yeah.
Because that's a pretty hefty shove almost into the referee.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times. We'll see what Disco does with all of it and how many games they give. They in the clip they're showing the VAR portion. I guess they did not give Shallowy a red straight away.
Correct.
They wiped away the yellow for him, gave a red, which I can understand because the referee is like, "Whoa, what just happened?" And he's coming in, and he gets a body flying like at his feet. So he's got to deal with that one first. And it's like, yeah, let's go back to the beginning of this because I've forgotten all the chaos. So I'm okay with the way that went down. Yeah, I mean, my guess is Shallowy might get an additional game for his issue with it. I think Estevez might get a couple additional games.
Yeah,
that's a pretty nasty push in that.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. And yeah, so it took an additional 2.5 or 3 before they went back and gave Shallowy the red after video review.
And Jarrett, Johnny Russell is the last person I'm going to try to get into a fight with.
Yeah, that's the part that was interesting to me. Like, of all the people to square up with, I'm not squaring up with Johnny Russell. Mm-hmm. that seemed dangerous. Mm-hmm. It was dumb. The whole thing was dumb.
Very dumb. But it's frustration coming out in these situations, and really dumb that in this case the frustration is coming out from Sporting Kansas City in that moment when they're actually going to get a win. Mm-hmm. Like I get Estevez is way over the top, don't get me wrong, but I get his reaction to his player getting chopped down trying to take a free kick.
Yeah.
What is Shallowy doing there?
I don't know.
Andrea Fontes also got red carded in all of it. I did not see as much of the issue with him. I don't think he'll get additional games. I think he was one who came in trying to get to Estevez. So Kansas City finally gets a win, and now they're going to have 2 players red carded for the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid.
They finally get production from Shallowy that they need desperately, and he gets himself, gets sent off and gonna miss the next game.
Yeah,
it kind of feels like Toronto of 2018, where anytime like Toronto of 2018, after they're decimated by injuries, they make the CONCACAF Champions League final, they lose. They're still decimated by injuries, but even when they had things go right for them that year, you would get really dumb things. Like I remember them, they earned a very late draw in Atlanta against Atlanta United. And like in the final seconds, who it was. Chris Mavinga just loses his mind with Miguel Almiron and gets sent off and has to miss the next game. So like even when they get something right, they get it wrong.
Yep, sometimes it happens when you're frustrated and results haven't been going your way. Even when you get a result, you're still ticked off, and it showed from Shallowy in this one. One more from the Twitch pitch before Jarrett leaves.
Question from Emilio. On a general level, is Nashville playing a bit more offensive than last year?
Your thoughts, Jarrett?
I think they will. I don't know that they have, just because they've had so many road games and they were trying to just kind of batten down the hatches in some of those road games. Caleb Porter was certainly vocal about that and got really pissy when they did that to him in Columbus.
Yes, he did.
But I think they can. They're a team that can. Like they can shift gears if they have to, for sure. They can, if they have to take over the ball and try and move it forward, they can run it through Mukhtar. They can try and go big up top. I mean, they've got the options to do it. And I think, especially at home, as the schedule gets more and more home loaded for them, I think they'll have the opportunity to do that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do it.
Cool. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We have a weekend whip around and plenty of other shenanigans tomorrow for you, Jarrett.
All right. Happy Enzo Perez Day to all who celebrate.
Yes. But you go look that one up if you don't remember. Thanks, Jarrett.
You're welcome. Bye.
John, tell us about our good friends at Eliminize.
I can certainly do that, even though the QR code is not over my left shoulder today. Just imagine a QR code here. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminize service, deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. They've created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, like cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent those homes that much faster. Turnkey process that makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Eliminize service, kind of the environment. We like that. Very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink, because when you take out that masking agent from under the sink, spray it in the air, that's why it's a masking agent. All it's doing is masking the odor. It's not attacking the problem. Proven scientific formula by Eliminize service goes all the way down to the molecule to destroy odor. Pricing is easy one of two ways, either by the cubic feet or by the cubic foot or parts per million. Come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any other questions, frequently asked or otherwise, one place you need to go, it's their website, eliminize.com. But do us a favor, after the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world that you are contacting them from. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, eliminize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air. Proud sponsors of everything. SDH.
Nicely done. You almost froze in a really funny spot.
That wouldn't have surprised me.
That would have been hilarious.
Yep.
What else? Let me get on Emilio's question about Nashville. I thought last year they opened up more than they did in 2020, and they didn't really get a lot of credit for it. I felt like early in the year where they had a bunch of kind of wild draws, they were trying to add more attack to their game, especially at home. As the year went on, they tightened back up a little bit. I'd expect this year does the same, but at home, that is a gigantic pitch. It is as big as it can be, 120 long and 75 wide. You could go wider, but shorter. It's a huge pitch. It is a pitch that they've talked about consistently on Nashville broadcast, that Gary Smith wants mowed basically as short as you can possibly make it. Super fast. they have a team that can attack. Hani Mukhtar is one of the best players in the league. CJ Sapong has fit everything that he wants to do in that team. Daniel Lovitz, great creator from the left. Hawkinson has played really well lately, showing that he can be something in this league. Dax McCarty, we know he can pop up in dangerous spots. I've always thought Sean Davis can do more going forward. Anibal Godoy, when he's back into the team fully, he was on the bench last night. He's somebody that can contribute going forward from a deeper position. We know what they can do on set pieces. I think what, the balancing act that Gary Smith will always have is, at heart, he's going to tighten things up when times get tough. That's just the coach he is. But he is trying at home to be more open. And look, last year, even giving up some wins at home and getting draws, and remember, like, some crazy come from behind stuff, and was frantic for them at the beginning of last season. They didn't lose. They are on a 23-match unbeaten streak at home in all competitions. They found a way to get it done, even trying to open up more. I think Saturday they'll try to entertain. I think at home for the first part of this, they will try to entertain. And then I think when you get late in the season, they will tighten things back up, and they'll know how much they can entertain and how much they can attack by that stage. So, but when you have a guy like Mukhtar, yeah, you can attack. And Lovitz as well. Lovitz is one of the better chance creators from a fullback, wingback position in the league. Lovitz and Lennon both excel at that.
A couple of others on the Twitch pitch. Michael Head, you mentioned that Vancouver gets to go to Charlotte 3 days after Charlotte hasn't played in 7 days. Why? Why does MLS do this unfair scheduling? There has to be a better way.
Yeah, I don't know. They've always done it. I mean, we talked about Vancouver. Atlanta was in Vancouver in 2019, and then was at Red Bull Arena on Sunday, and Red Bulls didn't play in the midweek. It's the same kind of thing. Doing a schedule is complicated. First off, it just is. And when you're dealing with stadium availabilities and all of that, it is complicated. I've done schedules, not at this kind of a scale. I've done NPSL schedules, which can actually have some more complications because of stadium availability thrown in, but it's difficult. And I'm sure they're not trying to create these situations, but they consistently happen. Is there another way? Could they have went to Charlotte at another time? Could they have played somebody in the West on the road this weekend? Probably, but it's all dominoes. Like, that's the thing that's hard about it, is when you move one game like that, especially in this one, because it's not like a home and away. You're not playing Charlotte twice. If that was the case, okay, at a minimum, if this is where you have to go with the matchup, you would have Charlotte go to Vancouver, make them travel, have Vancouver on short rest, at least stay at home. But you're not. You're only playing them one time. And if you move the matchup to a different part in the calendar, that could affect Charlotte's availability, and they're in a venue that they don't have complete and utter control of their dates. Vancouver has mostly control, but there are other things that happen at BC Place. So, and then whatever other game that is thrown into it that you move it around for, then that affects their schedule too. So, look, it's hard. I don't think MLS is doing this just to be, ha ha ha, look what we can do. We're evil. Ha ha, twirl our mustache. No. But this happens a lot. It will happen less as more teams have complete control over their venues and we have some semblance of a balanced schedule. I would have thought they could have avoided it here in this year where there's not quite as many midweek games, but they did not for some reason. And this is where Vancouver's at. See what they do in Charlotte on the weekend, and it's a huge advantage for Charlotte.
In the international stuff that we were talking about with news and notes, Burns says that Bayern will not let Lewandowski go. Uli Hoeneß hates Pini Zahavi and will do whatever he can to mess with his clients. See David Alaba.
Yeah, it could. I don't know if ultimately that's going to go well for Bayern if that's the game that they play. If they say, no, we're not going to sell you. I don't know how well that works out for them next year. And that's going to be the push-pull of it, is if Uli Hoeneß, who's not officially in control at Bayern anymore, but we know he has influence and control, if he does try to play that game, what does Lewandowski and his representatives do in response? Oh, I've got a hamstring injury. Oh, I'm gonna need time off. Oh, I'm gonna report late to preseason, and then we get the whole stupid standoff stuff that happens, and that's the last thing anybody should want in this. If all the smoke is real, and if he really wants to make this move happen, and probably the number one thing, I'm sure there is some joy in making somebody else's life difficult, especially an agent. If Bayern has a replacement that they want, that they can get, that is cost effective and everything works out on that side, yeah, I think they'll probably get it done. Depends on how hard Lewandowski is going to push, because that's always the balancing act here. You know, if the player doesn't want to be where he is and wants to force the move, it's hard to make an unhappy player perform well. And Bayern will have to weigh that in all these conversations. I think ultimately he goes if the desire to go is as strong as has been said.
Sam Williamson asks, does Miggy stay at Newcastle or does he leave?
No idea at this point. Seemed like it was a slam dunk that he would leave. It doesn't sound like Newcastle is going or is planning on spending crazy money in the summer. They're going to spend, but not absurd money. I don't think they would recoup what they spent on Miguel Almiron at this point. Maybe close to break even, but I don't think they would make more money on it. He has played his way back into the team, so maybe he stays. I would lean more to staying now than a couple months ago, but I'm not 100% convinced of it. But I think if I had to bet right now, I'd say he stays.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare what Eddie Howe has been doing with Miggy versus what Steve Bruce was doing with Miggy.
No. It's not. No, John. No, Eddie Howe wasn't playing Miggy. No, that narrative doesn't work anymore. Eddie Howe was not playing Miguel Almiron.
No, I was thinking more recently than anything else.
Eddie Howe's been there for a minute.
And I mean, just recently in matches.
No, yeah, John, but the whole conversation, there was no conversation under Steve Bruce about Miguel Almiron leaving the club. There was after Eddie Howe took over and he wasn't playing him. That's what I'm referring to. Yes, like I said, recently he has played his way back into good graces and playing and getting consistent time. But under Eddie Howe was when the rumor started that he would leave. It was a month or two ago. It had nothing to do with Steve Bruce.
Oh, I was thinking further back with Steve Bruce, where Steve Bruce was sitting there and saying, "I didn't know what I was supposed to do with me."
John, that's like that's commentary from 2019. We're in 2022, and Bruce is gone, and Eddie Howe did not play Miguel Almiron for a long period of time. There was never during that time, because they just bought him, rumors of Miguel Almiron being moved on after them paying what they paid for him. Steve Bruce said stupid things. Is anybody surprised by this?
No.
But that has nothing to do with the conversation. The conversation is Eddie Howe didn't play Miguel Almiron. He was on the bench. He wasn't even making squads. Oh, he could come back to MLS. Oh, Cincinnati might try to get him. Oh, somebody else is going to. That was when that started, like a couple months ago under Eddie Howe. So now it's flipped because an opportunity opened up and Miguel's done well, and he's done very well. I think the market will probably lend itself to him staying right now. And he will stay at Newcastle. We'll see how much he plays. A lot of it is going to be down to what they actually do in the window. There's always this dance with Newcastle since the takeover of they're going to spend all the money. And then you get the comments from the Newcastle side of things like, nope. We have a small budget. We're going to do this. But if the right player's available, then we'll spend all the money. We'll see. They've got to shore up some aspects of that team first. That needs to be their number one priority. Now, what I do worry about a little bit is that they go out and shore up parts of the team and add pieces, and that cuts into Miguel Almiron's playing time even more. And then you're looking at a move. I don't think moving him is a priority. So my guess is he's there, and then we'll address it in January and see if he should still be there. And maybe they make a move at that point if he's not playing consistently. But played his way into time at the end of the season. Maybe Eddie Howe's gotten to know him a little bit and see what he can do, and maybe he will be a part of the team from the start next year. We'll just have to see what that roster looks like.
Yeah, I think Newcastle, the number that they were saying was somewhere between 70 and 90 million for transfers in the new window and trying to bring players in to shore up their roster.
They said things in January that evolved, and I would imagine it's going to be the same thing here. If they don't get the deals that they want, then they might not spend 90 or they might not spend 70. If they find deals that they really like, they might spend 120. It's going to evolve. I don't put a whole lot of stock into that. They can do a lot if they want to do a lot, and we'll see how much they want to do and what offers are there for them. I don't think they're just going to spend stupid money to spend stupid money.
Mm-mm.
But if the right deals are available, then I think they'll spend more than 90. If they're not, then they won't.
When we were talking about our idiot, Robert Biggs, Pilgrim says at the end of the day, the leagues and players need to push for the max sentence as much as is in their control. But what is in their control is the ability to ban them into oblivion.
Yeah, 100%. Players unions, FIFA Pro should be all over this and should be demanding maximum punishment. They have to. It's just unacceptable. And it's gotten so much worse. Monica Seles' name came up earlier. If you don't know that story, that is long ago. That was shocking then because this stuff didn't happen at this scale. The malice at the palace in the NBA, that was shocking because this stuff didn't happen. Now it's happening on a daily basis worldwide. And we got more cameras. We got people with phones and cameras. We got more stuff than we've ever had, of course. This stuff has always happened, not with the frequency that it's happening now. If they don't do something strong about it, it's only going to get worse, and somebody is going to seriously get hurt and lose a career over it. Can't wait until that happens to make a strong stand. It's got to be better than what it currently is. And I hope Nottingham Forest adds on to whatever that ban is. I really hope that they take a strong stand and say, we don't want your support. Get out. I hope. We'll see.
Burns when we were discussing FIFA officials and Ismail Elfath versus Jair Marufo, Burns said that, Marufo threw it all away by missing the foul on Brooks Lennon. Cost him the World Cup. Atlanta influences everything.
No, I don't think it's that. But there's been a couple of things here with Marufo lately. And look, referees are performers like players are, and they're going to have ups and downs. I've said it all along, and I think it sometimes has to be just repeated. Jair Marufo is not a bad referee. Obviously not. Jair Marufo has been one of the best. I think he is still one of the best in the league. But he missed the Lennon call, and he got help from the VAR, and he still missed it. Pro said he missed it. I'm not making it up. That's a big mistake. Just like if a player misses an open goal, just like if a goalkeeper has the Gaga Slonina blunder from last night. It happens. It's part of a competitor, a performer. You have good and bad. You're not the same every single game. You have things in your life that affect you. You get sick, you don't feel good. You make a bad decision. Like, things happen. I do think Elfath has passed Marufo in terms of quality right now. I've always liked Ismail Elfath. I think he manages a game a little stricter, a little harder. I have to look at the numbers on Elfath in MLS, and let me see if I can pull those up real quick, because I don't think he calls a whole lot more fouls. I don't think he does than Marufo, but I feel like he has more control over games. He does call more fouls in his career. Marufo's generally in the 22 range for fouls per game. Elfath is just under 26. Cards, I think Elfath is a little bit higher than Marufo, but the way he manages the game, I think he has more control over it. And I think that's important. And I haven't seen him involved in one of these kinds of calls. I did not like the game that he did in 2020, the last game of the year on decision day in Columbus, where I felt like he took a penalty away incorrectly. I never saw a pro comment on it. They've kind of stopped commenting on anything by the end of the 2020 season. But I felt like John Gallagher was fouled. It should have been a penalty for Atlanta. It actually could have put Atlanta into the playoffs in 2020. Again, referees miss things. Referees miss calls. Things happen. It absolutely is part of it. But maybe Marufo with a couple of bad performances. I don't think the Atlanta one specifically, but maybe slipping just a little bit. Elfath passing him. I don't think FIFA is going to take 2 U.S.-based referees for that out of 36, I think. So if Elfath is the number one guy according to FIFA, I can't really dispute it from what I've seen.
Bart is in. He says, direct quote, "Y'all, I'm telling you that Marufo's getting old and just can't keep up anymore. Doesn't mean he hasn't been a good ref for a long time."
Yeah, he's absolutely been a good ref for a long time. You know it and study that side of it more than I do, Bart. I mean, I look at the calls and I look at some of the decisions. I look at the game management a lot. Those are kind of my trigger points when it comes to referee conversations. You're going to be able to go in more detail because of your experience. He is getting older. I mean, we all are every day, so can't fight that one, unfortunately. I haven't found that fountain of youth yet. But if that is part of the problem, I do wonder if that is maybe part of him doing more VAR assignments right now. We have seen him more on VAR than ever before. He's done, I think, now 14 games in his career as a VAR in MLS. That's weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just a fluke. Maybe it's a punishment because of the call against Lennon that he missed, and there was another one that he missed. Maybe they're starting to transition him. I don't know. We'll see.
A lot of back and forth on the Twitch pitch about the eventual destination for Mbappe. A lot of folks saying Real Madrid. Folks giving up reasons. I feel like I'm listening to Chiringuito.
It's going to go round and round. I would frankly be surprised if he doesn't end up at Real Madrid. I'm not willing to say that's a guarantee right now. But I would be surprised if he doesn't end up at Real Madrid for next season. I would be very surprised. So I think the money is going to be too strong. That Real Madrid brand is too big. And what he could go and do there, they would be the one that could be seen as on the same plane as Manchester City and Liverpool. And I mean, they're in the final right now. But if you had Mbappe, then you don't get the people acting like, oh, well, Real Madrid is shocking everybody by getting to the Champions League final. You had Mbappe, then it's going to be, oh, that's the big three in Europe now.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be that at PSG. They're going to that squad's going to change over a decent bit for next season. How much? Just have to wait and see. But I think he's at Real Madrid next year. If I was a betting man, and I'm sure the odds aren't even very good for this right now, I think he would be at Real Madrid for next season. I just don't think PSG, outside of straight up cash, can offer him enough to induce him to stay for another couple of years.
Well, there was that one thing on the Bird app yesterday where it was mentioned.
A lot of things on the Bird app, John.
Give Mbappe the academy and he can choose the coaches and bring in the players he wants and that kind of stuff.
Why would he want to do any of that?
I know.
Whatever. That sounds like an El Chiringuito thing.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it.
And then the last point, when we were discussing teams coming over to the United States to tour, apparently Airborne DJ is mentioned with Everton's trip to Baltimore just to get in the door and be in the nosebleeds, $200 a pop.
Yeah, I've said it before. I've never been a fan of friendlies. I don't get very excited about them. If it's in my town, okay, sure, I might go. Like the Mexico Super Clasico with Chivas and Club America at Bobby Dodd. I might go to that because I mean it's down the street. It's not hard for me to go to. Pricing will affect whether I go or not, but I'm not going to Baltimore and paying that much to have a bad seat to watch a friendly. Of course, there's situations that can change it. I have said, and I might, depending on if Argentina does play in the U.S. this fall or the summer as international friendly, getting ready for the World Cup, I might go to that if I'm able, because it might be the last chance I would have to see Messi with Argentina. And I've never seen Messi. I've never seen Argentina in person. That might be one, if the stars align, that I might consider going to, especially if it's Argentina in the U.S. But generally, too many of these turn into money grabs. And I just don't know if you get enough value out of it unless you're able to make a weekend out of it with supporters groups, and it's as much of a vacation and an event that all the other stuff around it becomes more valuable, because that's some crazy prices for an Everton friendly in Baltimore. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There is talk about a Barcelona Real Madrid game in Las Vegas, which I'm sure will be cheap.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no doubt. Word has trickled out about the Intercontinental Playoff with Costa Rica and New Zealand. Looks like it's set for June 14th, officially in Qatar at El Rayyan, Ahmad bin Ali Stadium. So that is now on the board as well.
Okay. Another interesting conversation, and we'll carry this over with Niko. Caleb Adams, it's Caleb Adams on Twitter, works for Charlotte FC, writes for their website. Thread from Caleb. This will interest general MLS and U.S. soccer fans. Regarding MLS's constraining roster rules, which limit depth, Charlotte FC sporting director Zoran Krneta says the league is, quote, actively searching for a solution to this problem. Quote, they are acknowledging that there is an issue. CSOs, chief soccer officers would be my guess, and a group of us are already working on this. I had several meetings regarding this, and we sent in a paper with suggestions from our side. One of the suggestions that Charlotte FC's technical staff sent to MLS was increasing the number of senior roster slots. Krneta talked about this with limiting roster rules with the Leagues Cup coming up next year. Quote from Krneta, we will be playing against Mexican teams who will come with 40-player rosters while we have 20-player rosters plus a lot of youngsters. That's exaggerated on both sides, but yes, you are going to need deeper rosters. That exaggeration is exaggerated on both sides of it. You have a 30-player roster for MLS. Now, if you're Charlotte and you don't fill the 30-player roster, that's kind of on you.
Yeah.
But you do have a 30-player roster. Some of those are younger guys because of the supplemental spots, et cetera, et cetera. So that is true, but exaggerated. Krneta says that the focus on youth is great for MLS, but to be competitive, youngsters can't take the whole burden. Absolutely agree. Quote, this is something that is already being discussed. It is something that is openly looked at. I think the league will address this in the coming months or year, unquote. Not surprised by that at all, because Leagues Cup starts next year. We've went round and round about it over the years, talking about things MLS can do. I do think they're going to need bigger roster sizes. I do think they're going to need, obviously, more cap space to do that. You can't keep the cap the same number and say, add 3 more players or 4 more players, but you can't spend as much. That'd be stupid. I don't want them to eliminate incentivizing teams to have young players on rosters and young players in moments where they can play. That needs to be part of the push going forward. And you can look at some things Liga MX has done with that, where in the past they set rules on how many minutes young players had to play. I'd find a way to incentivize it, and with MLS and with GAM and Monopoly money and Garber bucks or whatever you want to call it, there's ways you can do that. You can give a little more allocation money the next year to a team that has the most minutes for young players. So then they have more cap space the next year. You can find something to do with that. I'm spitballing, so if you want to kill me for that, go ahead. I don't care. There's ways to do it. Krneta, it's funny this is coming from Charlotte and Krneta, because they came into the season with a very short roster. There's no way around it. They did not fill out their roster. we talked about the numbers, the sheer numbers of what was on the roster. So to complain about the roster size when you come into your first year and you don't fill up your 30-man rosters, entertaining. But he's right in a lot of this. You are going to have to allow teams to add a little bit more. But what I hope goes along with this is some of the conversation that we've had over the years of giving teams a little more flexibility in how they allocate cap space. Because right now, and with the salary numbers out there now, one, more teams are spending more money than ever before. Can't argue it. If you argue against that, you're wrong. There's just no way around it. More teams are spending more than ever before. There are still some teams that spend less. And look, that's always going to be the case in every league in the world. MLS is no different. And you have teams that spend less that are successful sometimes, and you have teams that spend more that are not successful sometimes. Especially in a playoff league, that's going to happen. Can't get around it. Never a guarantee of anything, whichever way you go. But I would like to see thought, and I'm sure because they are having these conversations, and I've heard about these conversations, and I know they're going on. Cornetta is absolutely correct that these are happening, where it's not just, well, what if we change this rule to allow 2 more roster spots? It's not like that. It's how can we make the product better? How can we make MLS better? How can the league be better? Big picture conversations. I hope as part of that, we want to add more players to the roster. We want to add more money to the cap. And we want to give teams an ability to spread out the money on the cap a little bit more. I don't know exactly how you get there or if you completely overhaul things. And if you completely overhaul things, that's probably going to need CBA changes, which could be really tricky. Are there ways for teams that don't want to spend on 3 designated players to allocate the 3rd designated player spot across the cap in a different way? I don't know. That's for smarter people than me to figure out. But the conversations are happening. I agree with Cornetta in that they're going to have to add more pieces for the Leagues Cup. I want to see how they get there and how fast they get there. Changes for next season for MLS rosters would not be a surprise at all with the Leagues Cup coming online. Would not be a shock by any stretch. So stay tuned. I'm glad they're talking about it. I'm glad that that's public now, and I'm glad that that will be more of a conversation as we get through the rest of the season and into the off season. Let's see what a very smart person has to say about it. Welcome to the show, Niko Moreno. How are you?
Hey, I was waiting for the other guest, the smart one. I have no idea who you were talking about there for a second.
Oh, it's you, buddy. If it's not you, then we're all in trouble. We were talking a little bit about Caleb Adams' thread about Zoran Cornetta talking about MLS rosters and looking ahead to Leagues Cup, talking about increasing the size of the roster, having more veterans in the roster was one of the main things that they were talking about, instead of putting a lot of the brunt of depth on young players. Things that have been going on. I mean, I've heard about these conversations among like chief soccer officers, GMs, technical directors, etc. It's not new. The league's done it for a long time. But they are going to have to figure out a few things as you go into next year, and you have that additional burden of Leagues Cup on your platform, on your schedule, on your roster. If that means adding a couple senior roster spots to every team and adding the corresponding money to do it, I wouldn't be shocked if they do that for 2023.
2023 is a big year for MLS in general. I mean, you're already building certain expectations. You're building a brand to another degree. The Seattle Sounders are going to be playing in the World Cup, which is a huge deal. It is a perfect moment and a certain opportunity that you cannot miss out. So in general, yes, the league needs to do some adjustments to help out with, either putting another surplus of money into the cap or adding certain senior spots. I think that teams around MLS have done a really good job at utilizing those spots to making their rosters deeper and, actually getting some quality players out of it. I mean, just yesterday you see 37-year-old, Kai scoring for Montreal. They're late in the game, 133rd goal. So, those types of quality veterans are important for the league. So regardless of, I do know that those conversations are happening, and kind of trusting and giving them the benefit of doubt. I think that MLS will come up with at least a couple of adjustments to the entire salary cap, because they know how important 2023 is. And every club should be excited for that ability to just straighten their rosters and continue to show that growth at a global, aspect.
But at the same time, Niko, you mentioned the veterans, and we're seeing it there in Seattle with all of the impact that the younger players are having as well. And players that are in the system and they've been there for a long time. They know the Seattle way, and they're making those impacts as well. And Jason was making the point before you came on about incentivizing teams that play younger players. You're already seeing that in cases like Atlanta and in Seattle and things like that. So that that the only thing lacking really is the incentivization, to make up a word, incentivizing, to have that kind of that youth available. But you're already seeing that in Seattle, and it's already paying dividends.
I mean, you could add to that, because I do believe that specific aspect of MLS in general puts you above many other leagues across, America, where you are really doing everything possible to develop your young players and make them a part of the main first team projects and tournaments, and really creating a pipeline for them to continue to become great professionals. So yes, Seattle's doing it. I think Kansas City did it at some point, and perhaps that's why they're struggling right now, because they haven't really came out with more players out of their academies. But you see it all around the MLS, and that is something that you do need to continue to do and maybe get even better at, because you could not become a league that starts to hinder the growth of your academy players and your homegrowns, and then eventually just becomes a league that is importing talent. You need to be able to have a good balance. And I think the MLS has that, and they've actually doing it better than most leagues in terms of players from their academies and from domestic products to not just play in the league, but also getting them out and exporting that talent. I would much rather be a league that exports talent, one that just continues to just gather it from other countries, right? So I think that's an important aspect the MLS needs to continue to work on. But I think as of right now, they're doing it well.
Yeah, it's a good balance. I mean, they are bringing in, I think, exciting talent more than ever before. And whether it's your Shakiris or Insignes, or your Jairo Torres, or your young South American players coming in like Thiago Almada, you're getting a little bit of everything, which is good. And you are incentivized to sell. You increase your cap. You increase allocation money when you sell. And I do think that the league should change that for designated players. It's the same thing. Right now, you don't get a benefit on that, and that is silly. Like, you should. Whatever you sell out, if you make profit on it, you should be able to convert that to allocation money, and maybe even make that even more of an incentive. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But you're also developing players along the way too. And if they do add more space on the senior roster, if they do add more money to the cap, I do hope they find ways to incentivize teams playing young players and developing the George Bellows, the Obed Vargases, these guys that we've seen really start to step up and emerge in this league. Gaga Slonina is another one, although he had a bad night last night. There has to be a little bit of all of that. And I think so far, even with, people getting bent out of shape over some aspect of it here or there, MLS has done a pretty good holistic job in creating roster availability, roster rules, cap, all those different things to create a lot of variability for teams. Like, you can build your team like Philadelphia and be successful. You can build your team like Seattle, like Atlanta, like LAFC, like Dallas, all different kinds of ways. And these are all good teams.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the only knock when it comes to the outside in, I mean, those outside of MLS is the salary cap, right? That's what everybody kind of zeroes down into, right? Because other teams don't have that limitation. But at the same time, we've talked about it over and over again in this show. It is that it obligates teams to really use those resources to create better teams with more parity across the league. And I enjoy that. I think that's fantastic. But I think MLS in general is doing a good job at keeping the league young, right? The U22 initiative was a big deal, bringing in the Santi Rodriguez and the Magos and, you know, all these players, Leo Chus, and in general for the entire league. So MLS has proven to the doubters outside of MLS or not, that they are doing the right moves to make sure that the talent is younger, that the product is also sustainable within their own product and becoming more of a global market. So when you look at that, I have no doubt that for 2023, the right decisions will be made to make this league even better and ensure that teams like the Sounders are going to be playing a big international tournament and Leagues Cup and everything that's coming up will be to the best of the benefit of the league.
Yeah, 23 is going to be a wild year, man. I can't wait for all this. But I can't wait to see where 22 goes. And we saw last night a lot of wild results around the league. We'll get to Seattle and Houston. I think Seattle feels like they're back now, fully engaged in the league. The biggest result of the night for me is Austin in LA, taking care of business. They needed a statement win, a true statement win. Winning on the road in DC was not a statement win to me. Winning at Bank of California, absolutely a statement win. And Austin is, in my mind, and I questioned it all the way up until last night, they're legit, and they're a team you got to watch in the West.
Yeah, they're a legit team. And yes, there was definitely some craziness. I mean, it was a great day for MLS in general to at least watch the games. It was entertaining. 6 red cards in 2 games. That was pretty interesting overall for that Wednesday games. But yes, this Austin against LAFC game was an excellent soccer game in general. You knew that was going to be the case because of the quality players that were going to be in this specific match. And he didn't disappoint. I thought Austin played a very good game. LAFC had the control of the ball. They really came at Austin. Austin held on well, and they were the first ones to put the marker. They were the first ones to get in the advantage in the scoreline because they have those quality players. So, I mean, you got to give Fagundes a lot of credit. I mean, he's leading the league in assists, and he puts what's in the crossbar as well in this one. DeRussi doing his thing. That pass over the top to see Fagundes for the second goal is fantastic. And then Urruti continuing his run to kind of hold back the center back, giving Fagundes the space. So you could just tell that this team as a collective, they know and understand exactly how to fill out space, where their players are moving, and really exploiting those moments. Unfortunately for LAFC, they created chances, but Stuver did a good job overall in the game, except for the penalty kick that gives Vela his score. But I thought he was great. Whenever the team needed it, he came out big. I thought defensively they held on well. It's not easy to keep Chicho Arango and Vela outside of being in dangerous positions, but they did it all right for the opposition up at hand. And then the substitutions made by Wolf were also good. So I just think that overall, Austin is showing you that they are a deep squad. Valencia gets a start. I thought he had one of his better games since he started with Austin. So overall, I think that this team is legit. I've been on that corner just simply looking at the way they're building their roster. And, I love the way that Wolf handles his business and the fundamentals that he has just encrypted in so many of these players. So you got to give them credit. I think they are a team to watch. And that win at Bank of California is absolutely a statement win.
Yeah, you were on that corner. I had a foot off the corner. I wasn't quite there yet. They've convinced me now. That's a statement win. And I think one thing that John pointed out earlier that factors into this, where they had their little bit of a dip and where they lose at home to LA Galaxy, and it's kind of like, oh, okay, they're not quite there yet. Brad Stuver was out injured with that leg gash that he had on the goal. But you get Stuver back in there, John, and he carried them to a win last night. One of the best goalkeepers in the league right now.
Yeah, he had a double save at one point, had a full split kick save for a third, and so he has been definitely on, and that was what I wanted to talk to Niko about as a follow-up. You're getting guys like a Diego Fagundes, like a Maxi Urruti, like a Brad Stuver, who are finding a home in a system with what Josh Wolf is doing, and they're also recruiting South American talent. That is one of those markets that we've talked about on this show a whole lot, where you can find talent if you look. And it's this mix right now that we're seeing in Austin with guys that we know from Major League Soccer who might have been on the outs with their previous team or not getting playing time, or, insert reason here, combined with their scouting, and you're seeing the results right now with Austin.
Yeah, no, I agree. And if you look at the roster, some of the players that are so important for this squad are what you would call MLS veterans. Diego Fagundes has been in this league for forever, and you would call him a veteran at his age, and he's having probably the best season of his career, or at least the last 2 years he's been overall two of the best of his career. Then you got Nick Lima, and you got Alex Ring, and you got all this core of players that completely make Austin what it is. And then you got your DPs that are working out well for you. DeRusi, absolutely fantastic. You got Urruti, who's another veteran that just provides certain dirty work that not everybody absolutely does, and that is willing to make the runs. And
one of the most unselfish players in the league, Maxi Urruti.
100%. So that's exactly what Austin is doing. And it is basically the reflection of what we want to see in MLS overall. So much credit to them. They lost Dominguez, and they haven't lost a step. I mean, that's a guy who you were thinking was going to give you more than he had, but who was a talented player out in the wings, and you're still able to make adjustments and continue to have a good team with a solidified attacking pieces, and that will continue to impress, right? Defensively, they don't have huge talent, or they don't have DPs that are coming in to just say, wow, look at those center backs, but they're still playing well because they're well coached and they understand exactly what they need to do to win games. So overall, Austin, man, they really done a good job at using all those components that MLS allows you to have a good competitive roster. So, credit to them. I mean, look at LAFC squad in terms of money, man. I mean, they are, off the charts, but Austin comes in with their play in their stadium and gets a big result.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing in Austin and what we're seeing in Nashville, there are some similarities. Stylistically, no, they approach the game differently, but the way they've built their teams, Hani Mukhtar wasn't a name that everybody was like, oh my goodness, Hani Mukhtar coming to the league, that's amazing. Neither was Sebastian Drusi. Like, both good signings, people in the know, like, okay, these guys can be good. They're not the mega superstars, but these teams they're brand new teams. They're not trying to build, a long-term approach like Minnesota said they were at the beginning, where it's like, it's going to take us 3 years. We're not going to be good at for a while. They're not trying to go purely down the Philadelphia or Red Bull style. They're not trying to go down the Dallas idea of let's build up the academy and do it that way. They're not giant spenders, but it is more spread across the roster, and you have a lot of balance. And the other big result last night to me was Nashville facing Montreal, who I think has been the best team in league play over the past month. And Nashville handled their business. It wasn't easy. It's short rest. It's a tough night. It's Montreal, who's very good, but Nashville gets the job done with a somewhat rotated team, and they're showing how good they are right now.
I mean, that was the game I was watching. That was the game that when I looked at that Wednesday lineup, I did not want to miss. I mean, you had a Montreal team that was 8 games undefeated, that had beat their opponents 8-2 in the last 3 games. They had showed you that Nancy is definitely a contender for Coach of the Year. I mean, absolutely everything about this team was exciting. And then you had a Nashville team who I knew was going to be hard to beat, and you knew that they understood exactly how to occupy spaces and make it uncomfortable, and they did. Another team that understands how to use the veteran players. I mean, look at CJ Sapong. I mean, He was great last night. Completely told the center back to hit the weight room in one, completely bounces off, then pass back to Mukhtar. Mukhtar, who started the play in some ways with a little shoulder pass, finalizes that play in front of goal for that second goal. So simply fantastic. And then Mule, in the way he kind of comes into the 18, cuts back inside and puts away that goal with his left foot. I mean, this team, the New York Red Bulls product, someone who I thought was a huge pickup back in 2020, has played well. So we talked about roster components, roster buildups. They're absolutely doing it right. And last night was a big game for Nashville. Once again, Gary Smith doing a fantastic job. And I agree, that was a huge result for Nashville. I believe 23, 24 games undefeated at home.
23.
Man, I mean, they're a quality squad.
Yeah, huge.
So, all right. So you mentioned Coach of the Year. Let me go ahead and throw that question at you. You've got 3 that you can put on a ballot. You figure Wilfred Nancy, since you've already said, we'll put Wilfred Nancy on your ballot. I figured Josh Wolf is probably on your ballot. Who's your third for Coach of the Year right now?
I gotta go. That's a tough one. I would say immediately, Brian Smetzer, just because of what he's had to deal with in terms of CCL and MLS play, rotating players, kind of coming up with solutions. You saw what they did against Minnesota, that he allows this starting 11 to play once again together. I thought it was a right choice. They didn't play a perfect game, but they got the result. So for me, Brian Smetzer has always got to be in that ballot. So if you're going to give me one more and nothing else, I'm going to put Brian Smetzer all day, every day, especially because I know where this team is going. I have absolutely no doubt they are 3 points away from getting into the playoff zone. I know that they will get that. They play Colorado this weekend, a Colorado team that's going to have a couple of missing pieces because of the WWE game that we saw last night.
Man.
So it is just, I think everything is kind of falling to Seattle. And after Colorado, they have 5 games at home that they're going to play well in. So everything in the future for this team is leading to that. So I got to put Brian Smetzer in my ballot for Coach of the Year, because I know where eventually this team is going to be.
Yeah, the other one that jumps out to me is Nico Estevez in Dallas. I don't think Dallas had the expectation that others have had that are among the top teams in the league. They're the 3rd best right now in the overall table on 22 points. They did lose in Vancouver last night, a little surprising. But Estevez has done an incredible job in his first year so far in Dallas. I want to see more, but he's on my short list at this point for sure. Couple others who have jumped out to me for some of the same reasons, and I wanted to get your thoughts on the Atlanta-New England match from last weekend. Gonzalo Pineda, look, I think people have maybe misunderstood how hard what he's had to deal with has been, and I mentioned it on 92.9 The Game this week, and somebody tweeted about it, I hadn't really thought about it that way. He's lost the spine of his team for a large portion of it. Forward, Joseph back in training now, but he's been out since the DC game. Alonso, who was the starter, regular, maybe wouldn't have been all year long, but a huge part of that team in the holding midfield. Center back Miles Robinson, goalkeeper Brad Kazan. That's the spine of the team. And they're still playing at the level they're playing. Forget the result for a second. The level has been super high. And now you are getting more results. You're in a playoff position. And we've seen other teams, Kansas City is one who has had a lot of absences that haven't been able to play at that level. What Gonzalo Pineda has done is far more impressive to me than I'm questioning him because of what he's had to deal with.
Look, man, I don't understand how anybody could question Gonzalo, especially with the circumstances that he's dealing with. Look, it's a lot easier to know what to do in the middle of a storm if you're well prepared and you know where everything is at. Gonzalo Pineda is on his first real year with the team, and now he's got to deal with this hurricane coming right at his house. He's already taken out the garage, already taken out this shed in the back. He might be stuck in a tub in a room, and he's still getting results. So when you just make that comparison with a Peter Vermees that is everything for Sporting Kansas City, has been there for a long time, and still isn't able to put out results without a couple of DPs missing, then it just puts everything into contrast. And you have to give Gonzalo Pineda credit for holding this team where it's at, because this is not just tough in a soccer aspect, but when it comes to the morale of the team, when it comes to everything that goes with losing those types of players, I mean, it's tough to deal with. And I do know that Gonzalo is not just great when it comes to X's and O's and a fantastic strategist, but he's also a motivator. So I know that he's talking to these young guys. It is your time to shine. It is your time to get going. Look at Thiago Almada, man. His adaptation into the league and into this team has been fantastic compared to even, Ezequiel Barco, who, by all means, coming in with a lot more reflectors and, titles of, he's the best player in South America and he just won a Sudamericana. I mean, all of those things that Ezequiel Barco had, Thiago didn't, and he is come to play and he is adapted better. And we talked about it last week, right? We talked about what can Gonzalo do, and it's just getting this amplifying talents to just play better, and they've done that. Marcelino Moreno playing well, the changes that he's had to make at the holding mid position. Look, I was waiting for Sosa to come out and play and be the man. He hasn't been, and Gonzalo's had to move players around, trusting guys like Rossetto and Ibarra, and at the end of the day, it's really played out well for him. Have they not been able to completely just tear the league and just win every game? Of course not, but he has kept this team playing well and competitive to keep him at a certain line in playoff position, waiting for these other guys to come back.
And you're finally getting those folks back healthy. You're finally seeing what these pieces, when you bring in a Luis Araujo back healthy, and you're seeing the kind of artistry that you have. And that's the term that I use with folks like Moreno and Almada and Araujo. They're artists in their own ways. And then you have Rossetto and Ibarra working their way. Then you've got Andrew Gutman on one side, Brooks Lennon on the other. I mean, this is like 8 dudes that are going to come at you. And when they're all healthy, obviously the expectation is there from the inside that they should be, chasing after higher playoff spots. But I mean, you look at this bunch, and I think that there should be an anticipation that goes with the expectation of higher things for a team like Atlanta United when all of this gets to full song, with Joseph coming back hopefully sooner rather than later.
No, absolutely. And that's exactly what you're waiting for. And look, if there is one thing that at times I think hunts Atlanta, was their own early success. It created a lot of expectations and it created a lot of pressure in general. And now when things are amazing and you're not just dominating every tournament that you're in, and despite the issues that the team has had with coaches, I mean, the reality is that this team has struggled to continue to build up to that success, right? Kind of keep up with that initial Tata Martino teams, and comparisons always go back to Almiron and Martinez and everything that this team had done early in their history. Now, with a guy like Gonzalo Pineda, I think you could begin to rebuild some of that quality. You could rebuild some of that success, but because of all the injuries, you haven't been able to see it. When those players, like you just said, come back and this team is with their ideal 11, I think they're going to be a fantastic game to watch, a great team to be a contender in the East. And it's a lot of it thanks to Gonzalo Pineda. Look at Cisneros. Cisneros would have never came to MLS without a guy like Gonzalo Pineda that is respectable, that can say, pick up the phone and he's like, oh man, Gonzalo's on the phone. That's the type of quality player that he's also bringing in. He needed somebody to kind of give you something different with Jose Martinez being out, and he's done well. So all those components, you got to give Gonzalo credit at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's been a really not fun, because you'd like to have all the pieces to see what this team could have been, the way it was built. But it's been fun to watch Pineda problem solve. And what he does tactically game to game is just so impressive. The little things, when you really dig into it, they build up differently against different teams depending on what's been going on. sometimes Gutman tucks in a little bit more. Sometimes those fullbacks stay up very high, and one of the central midfielders drops in. He's got two guys in Ibarra and Josetu who can both drop in and are comfortable on the ball in those moments. The pressing up high, the way they press, how they press, who they press, it's all different game to game. It's just not like rolling it out and saying, go figure it out. He's always so thoughtful with how he prepares the team game to game. It's really impressive to watch.
Yeah, no, and not just that, but he also does such a good job at keeping the press balance and not allowing those expectations to hit the team. Whenever things go wrong, he's the first one to, fall on his sword and make sure that his guys are protected. And he also makes sure that, if there is, and there was certain expectation and all of this hype about Almada, he was very neutral about saying, hey, this guy's got to develop, he's got to come in, he's got to fit in. So all of those things are important for a coach to do. And when it's his first real year with the club, I mean, that talks a lot about his maturity and what he's learned over the years and why it took him as long as it did to accept the job. So all of those things just tell me that he's the right guy for the job. And if the fan base is patient and the front office, which I know they have this back, is patient, this guy's going to be in Atlanta for a very long time, and then potentially he can become a guy just like Brian Smetzer or Peter Vermees, that just kind of create this legacy behind them and on their back. So I think he's the right guy for the job.
Yeah, he feels like a guy who's a long-term kind of guy. He wants to see the 14-year-olds coming through the academy right now come into the first team. He wants to incorporate them. He wants to develop these young guys like a Franco Ibarra into a superstar in this league. He's not just here to get short-term results and bounce. Like, I don't get that sense from him. He's going to be in demand if he does well and he's at a high-profile club. Of course he's going to be in demand. He's not like Brian in that he has the long-term connection with Seattle. There's those things are going to come up, but I think he's somebody who is thinking not just 2 games down the road. He's thinking 2, 3, 4 years down the road and how he wants to build this team. So let's finish with this, Niko. It's Nashville and Atlanta again. Last time was a classic in the Open Cup where Nashville comes back after falling 2 goals down. This time you're going to have 30,000 people. It's national TV Saturday night. It's going to be wild and intense. I think that last game is going to make this even a bigger game. What are you looking for on Saturday night on Fox with Atlanta and Nashville?
Man, that's a tough game. It's a great game to watch. A tough game for Atlanta, considering the circumstances. They are benefited from not playing this Wednesday, and a Nashville team that had to, give it all out and put some extra miles on everyone's wheels. But once again, I think that Nashville can make it really difficult for Atlanta to transition. They could really minimize what Cisneros can do. I think they do a great job at protecting their flanks, and I think that's where a lot of the threats from Atlanta come through, is in their ability to get wide and get quickly out in the flanks. So I think it'll be a difficult game, and I'm going to go with a draw for this one. I think it's going to be an exciting game, a 1-1 match where Atlanta picks their times to get forward and really try to attack on, and they're facing a team that can really occupy and make things difficult. But then they also got creators like Mukhtar to change the game. So I see a very fun game, back and forth, and with a 1-1 draw in this one. But I think that you're going to get a game where even after a draw, you're going to say, wow, look the way Atlanta played that game. They had a lot of opportunities, and they proved that they continue to get better. So I just expect a very good game in that one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to calling it. I was pretty breathless by the end of the last time these teams met, about like I was on Sunday against New England. I think it's going to be another one of those barn burners. So looking forward to it. I'm actually heading up to Nashville a little early. I'm heading up today, so we're going to cut it short here because I got to get on the road, man. I got to get to the Music City again. Come on.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, thank you guys for having me as always.
Yeah.
We are going to have a couple of interesting things going on here on Pulso Sports with a couple of interviews tomorrow at Starfire. I'm hoping to get Yamar Gomez Andrade, who, as I reported this week, just got a new deal. He signed it. He's already done and ready, doubled up on his salary, well-deserved, and should be here through 2024 with a couple of options, club options on his end. So I want to talk to him about what he's done for this team, being a, Defender of the Year candidate last season, and how he's hoping to build on that this year. So go ahead and check it out. We will have that Friday night at the latest.
And are you doing any more follow-up on Lionel Messi to Miami?
Oh man, yeah, that is an interesting one as always. I do think that look, South American reporters are so good at clickbait, and I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying all I can bring in is what I heard from my sources, who I trust. And, it makes sense to me. But, this guy says that he saw the contract and that it had fingerprints and signatures and Messi's dad's ID on it. I mean, I don't know. If that's what he's saying, that's what he's saying.
Yeah, Burofax is probably somewhere involved in all of this, of course.
Yes.
Oh, jeez. We'll see. I think he'll be in Miami at some point. I don't know how you get there and when you get there, but it's going to be one of the stories of the next 12 months or so for sure. And I'm sure you'll be all over it, man. Thanks for spending some time with us. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Be good.
Make sure you're following El Rolo NW on the social medias. Make sure you're following OSG Nelson, Longshoe, Soccer Down Here, Jared_Smith, Nick Alifi. Lots of stuff coming up between now and the through the weekend. So we'll have live show tomorrow. Normal show. We'll have Michael Parkhurst on with us at 9:30. We'll have Mike Conti on with us at 10. We'll have the MLS weekend whip around. We will catch up on any other news of the day. We'll try to take a quick look at what's going on in South America as Libertadores and Sudamericana come to their conclusion. We've got to look at what's going on in Serie A and in the Premier League with titles going down to the last day. Milan just needs a result, or they could get Inter losing in that game, and that's always possible, but I don't think that's how Milan wants to win it. Manchester City has to get the job done with Liverpool chasing. We'll get you set for those games, everything in MLS. That'll be tomorrow morning. And then we've got the call from Geodis Park. Once again, Mike Conti and I, Miller Pope, will be with us as well. We'll be on the air at 7 on Saturday. Kickoff, I think I'm about 95% sure on this with everything going on this week. I think I've got it right that it is a 7:55 kick Eastern time. It's a Fox broadcast, longer pregame typically. I think it's 7:55 for the kick. So we'll have a long pregame, and then we will have a full-time report after the final whistle on Saturday night. And then we'll be on the road back to Atlanta and be back to something resembling normal as best as we can figure out what that looks like these days on Monday to recap everything for you. So thanks for spending some time with us. We appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Much plati, y'all.
Much plati, y'all.